Welcome, everybody, to the fifth episode of Stories from the Last Territory, a podcast that covers the golden years of wrestling in the island of Puerto Rico. My name, like always, is Luis Cuevas, better known as the Caveman, and I am your host for this trip back in time to the greatest feuds in the history of Puerto Rico. If you like what you hear and would like to subscribe, please go to my page in YouTube, Desde los Territorios por Wrestling Dome, or to our podcast in our digital platforms. And please let others know about this content that we're trying to bring you about the history of Puerto Rico. Today, we're going to dig into the greatest turn in the history of wrestling in Puerto Rico, the Chicky Starr turn on Jose Gonzalez, better known as Invader One. A turn that set the table for the next 5 years of wrestling in Puerto Rico, and that for wrestling fans in the island, is our where were you when this happened, as it became a before and after of wrestling in Puerto Rico. Before we start getting into the deep end of the feud itself, it'll be good to talk about the two main characters and what they were doing before this feud happened. Jose Laureano, better known as Chicky Star, debuted in Puerto Rico working for the independent promotions in the West Coast in the late 70s, early 80s, before settling in a tag team with Angel Pantoja, who later became known as El Profe, in Altura Mendoza's promotion in the West Coast. In the early 80s, they traveled as a team to Stu Hart's territory in Calgary Wrestling, and they were known as the Perón Brothers, and also had a couple tours in Mexico. He debuted in Capital Sports Promotion in late 82 as a white meat babyface. But besides a couple runs challenging for the junior heavyweight title, he really did not have a big time effect and was basically lost in the shuffle during that run in late 82 and 83 where we had a whole bunch of baby faces like Pierre Martel, El Gran Apolo, Carlos Colon, Invader, and many, many more during that time. So he was sent to Southwest Championship Wrestling in San Antonio, working for Joe Blanchard, where he had a pretty decent run, having a feud against Eric Embry for the junior heavyweight title of the promotion and the tag team titles against Embry and Ken Thames before coming back to Puerto Rico in 1985. On the other hand, Jose Gonzalez, as we discussed in episode 2, was the second babyface of the company behind Carlos Colon and pretty much was one of the most popular wrestlers in the island, especially after returning from his run in WWF in late 83, early 84. He has some good feuds, mostly in tag teams for the tag team title, and his main feud during the period of 1985, it was a very wild and hardcore feud against the Cheap Herders that had all kinds of stipulations and craziness that made a lot of money for Capital Sports Promotions, and that we hopefully will discuss in a later episode, as the Cheap Herders versus Invader feud was like the main feud pretty much in 1985, with exception of a couple feuds here and there. So basically, the feud of Chicky Star versus Invader One was basically a version of the Larry Sabisco versus Bruno Sammartino in 1979-1980, with a local and mostly hardcore twist along the way. When Chicky came back to the island in TV, Hugo Sabinovich, who was the lead announcer, started saying that Invader Uno was spending a lot of time with Chicky Star, helping him and training, and Invader in TV saying that he saw a lot of future in Chicky Star and that he was trying to make Chicky Star a star. That led to Chicky Star defeating different opponents in the opening and second matches and in the card, having a winning streak for the next month or so. In late 85 on TV, Chicky in an interview started saying that he wanted better competition and that he felt that someone in Capital Sports Promotion was holding him back to get better opponents. This continued even on the house shows, where after each match, Chicky would grab the mic and again start saying, I need better opponents than the ones that he was facing. While Hugo continued weekly on TV to push him to say who it was. For a couple of weeks, Chicky would not say who it was until finally Chicky spit it out, saying that he felt that it was Invader Uno and that he wanted a match with Invader to prove himself. And this caused great shock to Hugo, who could not believe that accusation was thrown out. Hugo questioned Invader, who said that he could not understand where Chicky was coming from and that he did not believe he should have a match. But after a couple of weeks of this, finally Invader said that he never goes back on nobody, that he doesn't go en reversa para nadie. So he said he was going to face Chicky. It was interesting because every year Capital Sports Promotions had have a year-end card, and then they will have a break into the January 6th card, which was the main card to start the year at Roberto Clemente Stadium, the Three Kings Day card. During this time, there was not a card, but Capital Sports Promotion decided to do a special match during the Christmas break of Chicky and Invader 1 during this time in December 22. In that match, the story was that no matter what Chicky did, kind of similar to Bruno and Larry Sabisco, Invader had an answer. And this was frustrating little by little. Chicky started more and more. Until finally he snapped. He grabbed a chair and blasted Invader with it, leaving him laying on the ring, while all the fans were in shock into what they had seen Chicky Star do to Invader 1. That set up a match for the Three Kings Day card in Roberto Clemente Stadium. For that match, Star came out with a new look. He colored his hair blonde and new tights and boots. But to the surprise of everyone before the match, that everyone was expecting Invader to just come in and guns ablaze and just start fighting with Chicky, he grabbed the mic and called Chicky and asked Chicky to hear him out. And Invader says that, I understand that everybody in the heat of the battle can make mistakes. And I know that deep down, Chicky, you're a good man. And I'm willing to forget that share shot. But Chicky, you just got to apologize. And if you apologize, we could go back to being the way it was. Chicky, he grabs the mic, he looks around, thinks about it. Fans are like, yeah, yeah, please join. Says Invader, I have something to say. While hit him in the head with the microphone and blooding Invader to the anger of fans who were ready to kill Chicky. And in that moment, that was the ultimate betrayal. Ahí fue que Chicky bregó Chicky Star, like they like to say in Puerto Rico. He started acting like Chicky Star. Star in interview with the Spanish podcast La Vuelta indicated that after this moment, he could not leave the house for the next couple of years because of the heat he had with people. People wanted to endanger him and had all the warnings against his life. Everybody wanted to kill him for real, even his family. He would have to go to the house, to the cars, and back to to the house because he could not leave his house. That's how people really believe at that time Puerto Rico wrestling, and especially what Chicky did to Invader, was the ultimate betrayal. The first part of the field was very bloody, with Chicky pushing how far he can go in TV with his promos about Invader that I don't know if they'll be able to be transmitted in TV today. They fought in all kinds of matches, from street fight to chain matches to cage matches, all around Puerto Rico as a main event or main event of the cards. They would take time from their feud here and there because Shiki, as a manager, will bring somebody to try to destroy Invader One. But every now and then, it always seemed to go back to them too. From '86 to the summer '87, they will always, have a couple months off, couple months back in, and then it will start all over again. And the feud reaches climax in the summer '87 when in a cage match, between Hercules Ayala and Invader, Chiqui came in, beat up Invader, and cut his hair, embarrassing him in front of all the fans in Puerto Rico. Invader, humiliated, asked for a match with Chiqui in a hair match. Chiqui said, "You know what? I already cut your head. I have nothing to gain. So what do you have to offer?" And Invader had no choice but to place his career on the line. That if he could not beat Chiqui Star in 15 minutes, he would retire from wrestling. And finally, Chiqui accepted. And this match was the main event of one of the three sites that held Anniversary '87 card. Capital Sports Promotion did a special show just about this field, and it was possibly the best hour of television of that year. It was very similar to the '83 Bill Dundee versus Jerry Lawler TV episode that Jim Cornette always says, but it was kind of similar. Uh, they went through all the history between them from the moment of the turn all the way to what just happened recently, where was Chicky Star cutting Invader's hair. And for me, in my opinion, the best promo in the career of Chicky Star was in this TV show, as he went from the beginning, explaining his point of view that he started wrestling, that he was never given an opportunity, that he was sent to Texas where he learned a lot of stuff, and then he came back and he had been a different wrestler. That yes, Invader trained him, but that Invader knew that he was getting better and better than Invader, so that's why Invader was doing everything in his power to hold him back. and that he had to make a decision, and in basically in 2 minutes explain everything to even a fan who by accident had just followed the TV show. In 2 minutes, he gave a whole summary of the whole field, a masterclass in how to sell and explain everything. And you could, like Mick Foley say, the rule breaker has to have a reason, and you could understand completely the reason of Chicky start turning on Invader number one. Uh, that was continued by an interview uh, with Invader, who also did a fabulous promo, which indicated to this day, he has no idea what he did to Chicky Star for Chicky Star to turn on him. Why Chicky thought that he was holding him back when he spent all his time trying to help him. And he did such a heartfelt promo that, you really believe that, man, he got screwed here. He's like, I saw potential in Chicky. I wanted to help him. I saw a lot of him in me, a lot of me in him. And I wanted him to become a star, but I still, to this day, Hugo, cannot understand why he did what he did, and that if he loses this match, he will not only lose the only way he had of feeding his family, but that this is the only thing that he knows how to do, wrestle, and that he has 15 minutes to stop Cheeky, or his livelihood will be over. So he asked for the fans to come and help him because he needed them in this moment in his career. And that anniversary, he would do everything humanly possible to continue his career because this is the only way that he was able to feed his family. And that worked. Before an overflow cloud of more than 20,000 fans, the match finally happened. Before the match started, Invader went up to Hugo Sabinovich and begged him to tell him minute by minute how much time was left. Please do, because it's my career on the line, Hugo. Please tell me 14 minutes, 13 minutes, and so and so. The match was fantastic, and that it makes sense to the story. Invader was desperate to finish Chicky, while Chicky did everything humanly possible to burn time. He ran away, he went under the ring, he stalled, he went through the fence as much as he could. As time was moving along and Invader getting more and more desperate, as well as the fans, as Hugo kept going, 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left, and it did not seem that Invader was going to win. So he pulled, an old trick, and he put something in his mask, hit Chicky Star, and beat him. And to the explosion of people uh, in the island and in the closed circuit, I was in Ponce. People were celebrating. I cannot even imagine how it was in Bayamon that night. And they grabbed Chicky and they give him bald headed. They even cut hairs from his chest. I mean, they did a whole job, and people finally went home happy. Chicky finally got what he deserved. Next week, Chicky came in TV and he claimed that he was cheated, and he started wearing Profes mask, kind of a similar to Buddy Rubber in World Class, and saying that nobody was going to see him bald headed. And Invader was pissed because he had just embarrassed him the same way that Chicky started embarrassing him. Invader's like, look, when you did it to me, I came in TV, I gave my face, you gotta give your face. So the feud became Invader trying to mask Chicky to show everyone the bald head. Uh, and which led to another series of matches that culminated in Chicky's mask against Invader being able to use his mask that he will use half the time. Let me explain this. When Invader Jose Gonzalez first started in Capital Sports Promotion, he had a mask. In 1982, in a feud with Bobby Jaggers, Bobby Jagger was trying to take his mask. So Invader, instead of letting maybe Bobby Jaggers win and retire his mask, he took him, he took his mask out by himself in TV, saying that he wasn't going to let nobody take out his mask. But every now and then he would put it back on, especially when he was doing tag teams with Invader 3. He would always put it back, or sometimes in single matches. So the stipulation was that if Kiki won, Invader wasn't going to be able to use his mask half the time. He will have to show his face for the rest of his life. Of course, Invader won, and Chicky had to take out the mask. In 1988, the feud was put in the back burner as each was dealing with different things. And of course, in the summer, Brody's death happened. Invader was out of competition for a while. But once Invader was acquitted by the courts, I wasn't there, so Capital Sports Promotion started doing a very embarrassing job of cleaning his image with Hugo Sabinovich and the company presenting Invader as this wrong man that has suffered so much that he only wanted to wrestle, that this is his livelihood. They even did a promo on TV with Invader One with his daughter and Hugo Sabinovich, you know, doing a great job, PR job of trying to present him as this wrong man that had been, accused of everything under the sun. And they announced that he will be coming back to wrestle. And his first match will be against Chicky Star. The promo that my man Chicky Star cut is considered the most shoot work promo in the history of Puerto Rico wrestling. This man went on TV and called Invader a killer, a murderer, a piece of scum, basically any name associated with killer. If there was, anything you can associate with that word, Chicky Star mentioned it in that promo. I mean, he was censor, it was bleep, it was everything. I mean, he just went on and on calling Invader all kinds of name under the sun. And the match happened, and then the feud really didn't pick up as well as it should have. They kind of cool it off after this promo by Chicky Star. They only had like one or two matches, and they kind of let it be for a while. And then Chicky Star left the promotion in early late 90s, early 91, and the feud basically ended at that time. They have bring it back every now and then. In 1995, they brought it back with Invader and Chicky doing tag teams, and of course, doing Chicky betraying him. There was a promo there where Invader told Chicky, "Please don't betray me. I cannot take any more betrayals. My daughter was dead. Everything this happened. Please don't do it." And of course, Chicky Star was like, "Whatever." Boom, and he betrayed Invader, and that kickstarted the feud, which also involved Invader's brother Maelo Huertas, where Chicky Star convinced him that the Invader one was holding him back in his career. So Maelo Huertas joined Chicky Star. It was a very interesting feud, but it wasn't never the same as the original version. Even to this day, Chicky Star I know wants to have one last match with an Invader. Invader has really kind of like ignore him for a while. And basically, even though they're both older wrestlers, they still wrestle. Chicky Star was the headliner of Anniversary 50 in a match with a so-called local celebrity that drew enough. And then Invader had a run in IWA wrestling against Manny Ferner and some other wrestlers, but it was never the same as the first one. And but at that time, that feud was amazing, especially the promos that Chicky Star cut on Invader. I mean, he really went like almost crossed the line. Uh, well, more than personal. I mean, he really, really went uh, deep end on Invader One. And that first feud, 1986 to 91, like I said, it was the before and after because it set up Chicky Star as the leader of the Rule Breakers. He was the man causing all kinds of trouble with his Chicky Star Sports Shop, bringing wrestlers to destroy Invader One and Carlos Colon. And then, of course, Invader One and Carlos Colon as leaders of the Justice Army, trying to stop the Chicky Star Sports Club from becoming, the number one group in World Wrestling Council. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this little look at that feud of Invader One versus Chicky Star. If you have seen this feud, please give us your memories of this feud. It's mostly you could find a lot of it on Armstrong Alley. Classic WWC has a lot of info from that video, from that feud. But it was a very interesting feud that established Chicky Star as the greatest rule breaker ever in the history of Puerto Rico. And to this day, he's recognized as the man who betrayed Jose Gonzalez. For some people, he's a hero because he betrayed Jose Gonzalez. For some other people, he's the most hated man in the history of Puerto Rico. Next week, we're going to be start looking at some of the anniversary cards that happened during the glory years. So hopefully you guys will join me in episode number 6, looking at some of the one of the anniversaries. I'm not still sure which one, but promise me, I will do my best to do a great job with it. Meanwhile, you can always find me at X at Cayman Sona W. You could subscribe to this podcast, The Last Territory, Stories from the Last Territory in YouTube or in any of your audio digital platforms. You can also, if you want to hear me in Spanish, uh, follow me in the De los Territorios. We have 171 episodes covering the history of the territories in the island of Puerto Rico. And you can also follow a good friend of mine, Jesus Salas, in his podcast in Spanish called Historias del Puro, which talks about the history of wrestling in Japan. And he's going to have a new podcast called We Want Blood, or Quiero Sangre, or Queremos Sangre, where he's going to be analyzing, pulling apart one famous bloody match in the history of professional wrestling. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that hits um, tomorrow, Tuesday. So go to his page in YouTube, Historia del Puro. Meanwhile, thank you very much for all your feedback, for all your questions. I'm thinking in 2 weeks I might do a Q&A. You guys send your questions about Puerto Rico wrestling, and I will try to answer as best as I can. And if not, I will try to find somebody who can help me uh, give that answer to you. So, into then, like always, muchas gracias. Appreciate the time that you take to listen to this podcast. And like my friend Joaquin Padin would say, sayonara.